Hello guys, welcome back to TSBEC TV. With the Disco 2 now fully operational, it is soon time for it to receive a remap, of course. So today we're going to be starting that process by doing an EGR blank.
So, as you heard, today we're going to swap over the EGR valve for blanking kit. On the interweb there's loads of different kinds of EGR blanking kits. First we're going to have a look at Liam's, the way he have done it. On his, where we got the EGR, which is supposed to be here, got blanked off by this straight tube. There's no valves or solenoid onto it, and he also deleted the pipe that runs across the front of the engine and into the inlet manifold. And on the inlet manifold there are two screws into it, or two bolts, and they are very easily to break. And if you break those, it's quite hard to get to. You probably have to get the exhaust manifold. When you take the exhaust manifold off, you're going to break even more studs into it, which is quite a big job to do if you start doing that, which kind of scared quite a lot of people of doing the EGR blanking. So what I've gone over and done on mine is I went onto Allisport's website and looked for EGR blanking kits, and they make this one. This is pretty much the whole thing you need to get rid of it. And what it does is that it's blanking off the EGR, but it does it quite a clever way, because it does it up here, right by the EGR, so you don't have to remove this pipe, copper pipe here, that runs off the copper colored pipe that runs all the way into the exhaust manifold. So you don't have to mess with the bolts that are quite that normally breaks when you have to take them off. So you can just leave the pipe in and blank it off right here. The same goes with the vacuum pipe that just sits on a little stud here on top. So it actually looks a bit like an EGR, but it's just not doing anything because the tube is just nothing there, it's just a tube. So we're going to try and put this one in place instead of that. And of course that is one of the measurements you have to do to get the storm tuning stages to it, because otherwise it's going to mess up the tune. If you start putting exhaust gases into the inlet manifold together with the tune, it's going to mess it up. So we just need clean air to run it, and that does also improve the mileage of the car and just the complete cleanness of the inside, because you're not reusing exhaust gases into it. The other downside of it is that you might have higher emission, or the emission test at the MOT might be a bit higher, and some might fail on the MOT depending what country. And the thing is, US, you're not allowed to do the EGR blanking. In Denmark, it's not legal to do it, but it has to be within the certain limit of the exhaust gas, like how much it puts out of the different types of gases, like the NOx gases and all that. So we're going to cross our fingers, put this guy in, and see if it's going to get through MOT next year. The first step of removing it is taking off the vacuum line here. The vacuum line goes to a little vacuum pump, which then operates the solenoid here, pushes it up and down, opening and closing the EGR valve. So take that off. Afterwards use a 10mm, take off the 4 bolts that sits here, and nuts sits onto the side. I'm going to do that now. Very nasty looking EGR valve. And all that is also what the inside of the inlet manifold looks like. Take my finger here, scrape it through. That's what your EGR does to you. So there's the inlet of the what do you call it? The inlet of the inlet manifold. Well, this is the inside of the inlet manifold, what it looked like. Most of this is probably because of the EGR. The exhaust gases come in here, then it opens up this valve, and then that lets the exhaust gases into the system once again. But it could also be some of this bit here, which is the oil breather, comes from the rocker cover, which means all the excess oil that evaporates inside the engine goes through this hose into this and then get recirculated into the system and burnt. That could also be some of it, but I don't think that have ever been opened in 19 years, so there's a lot of stuff in here going on. So now we got the actual EGR off. The unit is right here compared to the new one, which is here. So now it's only a question about fitting it. As you can see, the bottom bit looks rather similar. We've got this flange here where this clip goes onto it to hold the pipe from the exhaust onto it. The only difference is here is blocked off and here is completely open. So that's where it gets clever, because it just blocked off this part. That means you don't have to remove the whole pipe off. You just put it on here and then it's blanked off and doesn't get to the inlet. Otherwise than that, they look quite similar. Same goes to the vacuum pipe. Vacuum pipe just goes on this little notch here, which doesn't go to anywhere, compared to this bit goes into the diaphragm, which pulls it up and down to let gases into it. Now, on the kit it says that it comes with a manual and a new gasket onto it, like this one here. But I didn't get either of them, I just got this thing. And I completely ripped the package apart just to make sure. But nevertheless, I'm going to use this trusty stuff here. Liquid gasket sealer thing, because this side's not going to get very hot, because it's in that side, so all air is going to be passing through it all the time, cooling it down. So we can easily use this stuff. You've got to put a bit on here, throw it on, start them up, and then spray a bit of that stuff I showed you earlier, just to clean out the inside of it as much as I can. And then we're going to go for a ride and see if we can actually feel a difference in having an EGR blank with no tune on it, just a blanking kit. Stuck officer. What seems to be the officer problem?
The officer problem. So compare how easy this process was to mine when we couldn't even get those
Bolts off.
2 bolts off. I had to get a garage to do it. And we just did this whole thing in an hour. And it's a cleaner solution than mine. Although mine saves weight. Because I had to take bits off, so mine's faster.
I don't think that tube is much of a difference in weight, but
it is if you're in Formula 1, which I'm not, so it doesn't matter, but
I need to drop a bit more weight. We're talking about Disco versus Defender. There we go.
if we ever do one of those drag races again, I am just gonna like take all of the unnecessary bits off of my Defender. So we just had a bit of a technical issue because the SD card filled up after about 2 minutes of filming. So we went through the area where we could actually do some accelerations, and now we're in the built-up area where it's 50 kilometers an hour, but we can't really push it. But is there a difference?
I would say there's a bit of a difference.
It's one of those things that it's hard to tell when you have quite minor performance modifications, because then you don't know if it's like that placebo effect of like you just think it's better.
Yeah.
You don't know if it's actually made a difference. You know, when it's like a remap or something, it's so clearly different. But while we wait, you can tell everyone about the amazing performance air filter you bought.
Yeah, with the Allisport EGR blanking kit, I just went ahead for fun and got that thing as well. And I actually don't know if it does anything, but it makes turbo sounds even more loud.
Yeah, I need one then if it makes turbo sounds.
So
it's an ITG performance air filter, which I have never heard of this company.
Yeah, it's British made. It's pretty much just a K&N filter, just made in Britain. So it's like an oily texture cloth that's in it, and what you can do is just reuse it again and again. So every service you do, you don't have to buy a new filter. You just take the old one, wash it off with some degreaser, and then you re-grease it with some stuff you can also buy from that company and stick it back in.
But is it?
I think it lets more air in, but it says it's made for road use and high performance cars or so.
But is it a disco specific filter? It's not just some like, you know, this fits lots of cars. It's like a Disco 2 filter.
Yeah, I think it is made for Land Rover, and I do believe that the Disco and the Defender TD5 got the same type of airbox in it.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure you can swap it over. But it's not like a cone filter or something. It's like specifically made for Land Rovers. But it's not made to go off-road. They say that it doesn't say off-road anywhere because it doesn't really do much for very small dust particles. So if you keep going like in the bush
considering getting a K&N filter ages ago when I got my remap. And Daniel from Storm Tuning said they did a test with K&N filters and I think some other brands, and their tests actually showed that the stock one actually was, you know, the best one, the most efficient. So I don't know if it's worth, because I think the K&N ones are quite expensive as well, so I'm not really sure it's worth the money.
But you can kind of like turn it around and say how many stock filters do you have to buy in a year compared to having this one filter.
Well, I just change the stock one once a year. But it just, when I get it, it comes with the whole the whole service kit. It just comes with the filters, so it's not like an extra cost for me.
But the engine breathes a lot better with this kind of filter compared to the paper filter. Which you can also hear on the snorkel right here, how much air it's actually.
It does sound a bit more like whooshy.
Yeah, whooshy. That slick shift is really nice as well.
I forgot you put that in as well. Yeah. So there's we should have, as some people mentioned, we should have done it when we did the gearbox one.
Yeah.
But you ended up having to take the gearbox back out again.
I did, because it's bigger.
Which obviously we didn't film because we had a 50-minute video on it already. So.
Yeah. Just pretty much doing completely the same again, but then I went ahead and put the slick shift in it when we had the gearbox out.
I know we mentioned that actually in that disc when your windscreen broke.
Yeah,
we mentioned that. So. But even in this, you notice the difference.
Yeah, it's a big difference, especially when you go into 5th gear, because otherwise you have to go all the way here. I might hit my fingers on the dashboard, and now that I have no chance of it. It just goes into gear a lot nicer.
Because I mean, obviously the Defender without the slick shift is just like a, you know, lucky dip thing. But is the Disco better from stock?
Yeah, it's better from stock. That's because like the size
shorter,
of the shifter is actually a lot shorter, because the gearbox is right under here compared to the Defender, where you've got like half a meter of metal pole to have you do the leverage on it.
Yeah. I wanted to say at the start, for those of you that don't know the backstory, in reference to what we were talking about at the start of the video with the difference in the two EGRs, but basically because I've obviously got the EGR delete as we showed, because I got a stage 2 remap and you need it and everything, but we didn't do it ourselves because we couldn't get those two bolts off, where you're supposed to remove the pipe and put the blanking plate in, because they were just seized up. So rather than screw it up and end up needing a new exhaust manifold, we just left it. And then I needed like a professional to put the new ECU in anyway, because you have to code put the right codes in for the injectors or something. So I just got them to do at the same time the EGR blanking for me.
Yeah, they got an induction heater to do it.
Because for them it's a relatively quick and simple job with the right tools. So I just got them to do it. So we never done it ourselves. But the other thing was that it meant that I never experienced the performance difference with the EGR, because I got the EGR and the remap at the same time. So I just got the difference in with the remap. Whereas you actually get to feel what it's like with the EGR blank. So it's interesting to see whether it makes a difference. He looks like he could use a remap. But other than that, I think there's nothing left to say really, is there?
No.
God, in regards to that.
Daniel needs to hurry up.
Yeah, so that's something we can talk about. What's the next step?
The next step is getting the stage 2 remap from Daniel.
There's nothing else that needs to be done, is there? You got the straight pipe and you got the EGR.
Yeah, I got the straight pipe and EGR, that's the only part. Of course I would like to get a big intercooler, as I in the future gonna go ahead and get his VNT turbo upgrade, which of course needs a bit more tuning and a stage 3 kit onto it. But because this is a 10p engine and not 15p, which means the ECU is not codable, which means you can't just plug it into the ODB2 port down here and just put in the extra remap. You have to actually physically send your unit over to Daniel, and you will put a chip in, which is tunable by him.
Same as what I had.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I just got a whole new ECU.
And then of course we had to do the coding with the alarms as well, so I can actually open and close the car with my central locking. For that I need to get the Nanocom computer, which can do all the coding. And with that we have to change the intercooler. With the intercooler I need to change the air conditioning, condenser, the fan, and a little thingy-mob that also sits out there. They're quite inexpensive to change. changed. Like it costs close to nothing to completely renovate the complete air conditioning system, but I need to do that at the same time as we put in the new intercooler, because then you got all the space for it. With that, I also want to get the ACE pump installed and do the coding for that. So there's going to be a lot of things going on when we put the new intercooler in.
Yeah. And that's just the remap. That's not including like other things that is going to happen.
No.
Because like interior bits are going to be done.
Yeah, the speakers are going to be done.
Tough rock. We can do some tough rock.
Yeah,
things
tough
as well. Mud flaps, etc. Back door. There's a lot more still to be done, and likewise with the Defender as well. So plenty more mods. I remember last year. I think it was last year. There was a time when I was just like, you know what? I don't think there's much else I want to do to my Defender anymore. This is like the way I want to keep it, and like that hasn't happened because now just like new things break or get worn out, and I'm like, oh, I can change that for this. And
yeah.
It's the never-ending story. That is Land Rovers. So anyway, that is that. That is a really interesting way of doing an EGR blank, actually, because I had no idea it was going to be like that. I thought it was just going to be similar to mine. So it's cool that we got to see the comparison between the two, for sure. So other than that, we will say thank you very much for watching, guys, and we will see you